Who would like to start?
Kurt would like to start, so go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Kurt Fazone. I'm doing well. I'm serving as chief negotiator for both SPALC and TALC this evening. We have a few on the SPALC side. Tony is missing, David is missing, and Chris Rasmussen is missing.
Iris?
And Louis as well. Luis, I'm sorry. On the TALC side, we're missing LaShonda, Tara, and Iris. So hopefully that takes care of all the missing on our side. I don't believe I have any elephants. Expectations, negotiate the best deal possible for employees. I'm going to pass it down the SPALC side first. And
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Arlise Williams. I am doing well. Time constraints, whatever it is, 7 o'clock. Missing has been noted. No elephants at this time. And same expectations as current.
So, good evening. My name is Chris Cox. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing's been noted. There's no elephants, and just expectations to have a productive meeting.
My name is Deborah Evans. I'm doing well. Missing people, don't know. Elephants, non-expectation. Can't think of anything right now.
My name is Aileen Perez. I'm good. Missing people, we had a few. Elephant, I don't have any elephants. Expectation, I hope this is going well.
Good afternoon, my name is...
What was your expectation?
I hope everything, the meeting goes well.
Sorry. My name is Patrice Coates. I'm absolutely fabulous. Time constraints, none. Missing noted. Elephants, none. Expectations that we continue to move things forward and fair.
Good evening. My name is Tom Modeski. Fair to Midland. No time constrictions. Missing's been noted. No elephants. Expectations, hopefully we all agree on a good deal for everyone.
My name is Kevin Daly, and I'm the president of the Teachers Association of Lee County, and I am better than Jimbo Fisher. I have no elephants, and productive meeting.
Good evening, my name is Bob Scapitolo. I teach math at Three Oaks Middle School, and I am the area coordinator for TALC. I've got no time constraints, I'm doing fine. And missing has been noted, and no elephants, and I will go with what Kerr's was in the top. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Christina Starrett. I'm the kindergarten through 5th grade art teacher at Tortuga Preserve Elementary. I'm doing well, no time constraints, missing's noted, no elephants, and again, I'm going with the top expectation. Thank you.
Mario Dorstal, teach math at Suffolk Mary's High School, doing well, no time constraints, missing's been noted, no elephants, and let's go with the top.
Good evening, my name is Louis Fisher. I am the director of instrumental music at Gateway High School. I am doing well, I have no time constraints, no elephants, and expectation is to stick to norms.
Good afternoon. My name is Shay Pearson. I am a testing coordinator at Island Coast High School. I'm also the TALC treasurer, and I also teach for ACE part-time. Doing fine. Missing has been noted, no time constraints, no elephants, and I will stick with CURS. I would just like to add the word equitable.
Is that okay, sir, to add equitable up here?
My name is Samantha Howard. I am a PCT at Harns Marsh Middle School and Communications Director for TALC. I am well, I have no time constraints, no elephants, and I would like to go with the first expectation as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Witten. I am a third grade teacher at Colonial Elementary, as well as the TALC secretary. I am doing fine. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and I will go with the first expectation.
My name is Jill Castellano, and I am a peer collaborative teacher at Varsity Lakes Middle and the vice president of TALC. I'm doing quite well. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and my expectation is, I can't read that, so the first one that Kurt had put up is good with me. That sounds amazing, thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Johnson. I am well. I have no time constraints. Missing has already been noted, no elephants, and expectations is productive meeting.
Good evening, I'm Robert Dodig. I am well. I have no time constraints. I don't think anybody's missing from our team. Who's that? Barbara Cedeno is missing. No elephants, and the expectations have a productive meeting.
I'm Will Rothenberg. I'm doing all right. No time constraints. Missing seems to be noted. No elephants. And expectation. I'm going to go with, I hope the meeting goes well.
Good evening. I'm Heather Leonard, the Director of Staffing and Talent Management. I'm doing well this evening. I don't have any time constraints. I believe the missing have been noted, and I have no elephants, and my expectations are that the meeting goes well this evening.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Amy Desamore, and I'm fine. No time constraints. The missing's there, no elephants, and my expectations are to continue to move things forward.
My name is Kevin Kelfie. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. I have no elephants, and I love Kerr's example, so I'm going to go with that one.
Thanks.
Carl Burnside, principal at Dunbar High School. I'm doing fine. I may have a 6:30 time constraint, but it's possible I'll be here to the end, just depends. Missing, it's been noted, no elephants, expectation, productive meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bonnie McFarland. I'm the Director of Insurance and Benefits Management. I'm doing okay. I have no time constraints beyond our 7 p.m. end time. The missing have been noted. I have no elephants, and my expectation is for a productive meeting.
Jessica Duncan, Executive Director of Student Services. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing is noted, no elephants, and my expectations are for a productive meeting.
Good evening, I am Helen Martin. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints this evening. The missing have been noted. I have no elephants, and my expectations are to have a productive meeting.
Good evening, my name is Roger Lloyd. I'm representing transportation. I'm doing well. I do not have any time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, and I'd like to make some progress tonight.
Hi, I'm Mike Gaywood. I'm doing good. I have no time constraints. Missing's noted. No elephants. Expectation. Make progress tonight.
Hi, I'm Suzette Rivera. I'm doing well. I have a time constraint of 5:30. I have to be at another meeting. Missing has been noted, no elephants, and my expectation is to have a productive meeting.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jason Kurtz, principal at Hector Caffrey Elementary School. I am doing great. I have no time constraints. Missing's been noted. I don't have any elephants I'm aware of, and my expectation is let's make some progress tonight.
My name is Jamie Browder. I am the principal at Orangewood Elementary. No time constraints. I am well. No elephants, and my expectations are to make progress.
I'm Shannon Johnston. I'm doing great. No time constraints, no elephants, and my expectation is to make progress tonight.
Good evening, I'm Ben Osman, the principal of Bayshore Elementary. I'm great. I have no time constraints, no elephants, and the expectation would be to have a productive meeting.
Ann Cole, principal at Coosa Middle School. Good. No time constraints. Missing is already noted. No elephants. Expectation is to have a productive meeting.
Marcia Burr, I'm doing well. No elephants, no time constraints, and I'm going to go with productive meeting as well.
Matthew Kay, Accountability Assessment and Research. I am well, I think. No time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, and make progress.
I am Teresa Bowen, the Director of Exceptional Student Education. I'm doing well. No time constraints. The missing were noted. No elephants, and expecting to be productive.
My name is Candy Messenger. I'm Director of Food and Nutrition. I'm doing well. I have no time constraints. Missing has been noted. No elephants, and my expectation is to make some progress tonight.
I'm Amy French. I'm doing well tonight. No time constraints. I don't have any missing from my team. I actually have 2 people tonight. No elephants, and expectations are to help you meet these expectations. And I do want to introduce, we do have 2 new people that we are training. Rosie was here last session. Rosie Perez will be learning along with us. And Michelle Robinson, so I'm grateful to have them. And Donna is out of town, so you have me instead. I'll let them go ahead and shout their introductions.
Rosie Perez, I'm doing well, no time constraints.
Productive meeting.
Hi, I'm Michelle Robinson. I'm doing really well. I have no time constraints. This is noted. No elephants, and my expectations are productive meeting.
Well, we are here for a joint session, and I do just want to remind us about our norms. I'm going to quickly read through them. Let me know if we need to add anything, or if we need to add anything for this particular session. So we have begin and end on time on both of these. Individuals, not issues. We have issues, not individuals down here as well. Assume good intentions. Limit sidebars. Restroom breaks when appropriate. Maintain confidentiality. Stay on topic. Have minutes distributed before next bargaining session. Cell phones on silent. And for SPALC, I think we have stay on task, which is the same as stay on topic. And maintain confidentiality as best we can in a public meeting. Are we okay, Jill?
Can I add something?
Sure.
I'd like to add transparency.
Transparency? Okay. Thank you. Shay?
Can we also add clarity?
That's spelled. Hold on. Go back to put it. Is clarity a norm, or is that one of our interests? You You want it to be in the norms?
I'd like to be in norms.
Okay.
So for the sake of clarity, yes, we're going to talk about insurance and benefits this evening, but I would first like to ask for an executive caucus with Kerr and Arlise and Kevin. Well, because Kerr's on both, so. Yeah, well, excuse ourselves for maybe 10 minutes. Thanks.
Get a caucus report. Rob, are you gonna report out, or?
So we discussed tonight's presentation that Bonnie's going to present, amongst a couple of other things that could potentially impact that, although not directly, with the leadership. And came to the conclusion that Bonnie's presentation has certain proposals in it, and we'll essentially discuss those as a group after after Bonnie does her presentation, or she can take questions during it. It's up to her, but that's how we're going to proceed.
Okay. So she's going to present and has certain proposals, and we'll take questions either throughout or at the end. Do you need to add anything to that, Kerr?
No.
Okay. All right. I just see for our agenda today, Article 11 benefits, so I believe I'm just going to turn it over to the star of the show tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time in listening to this presentation, and I will welcome questions throughout, so please feel free to raise your hand if you have any. So information around benefits actually lives in primarily in Article 11. There's a little bit of information in Article 13, which I know we didn't open, but that discusses the ITF, which is the group that helps to evaluate programs, and we'll talk about those as part of this presentation as well. Not sure where the feedback's coming from. Maybe we can kill the other mics. Thank you. Okay, now it doesn't want to play nice. There we go. Okay, so just there's kind of a lot about benefits, so I tried to break this down into some kind of manageable bites, and so that's what this agenda shows is my attempt at that. But if at any time you have any questions, feel free to let me know. So the first thing I wanted to start with was just a contract language review. There's an entire article, obviously it's Article 11, that goes over the benefits, but here's some kind of really important highlights if you haven't read your contract in a while that might be important for you to know. So primarily when we're talking about benefits, we're talking about insurance, which is the majority of what Article 11 contemplates. And the eligibility for that insurance is found in Articles 1101 and 1107. And I think most of you know if you work 30 or more hours, you're eligible for all of the district benefits. If you work 20 to 29.9 hours, you're eligible for all of the voluntary benefits. That excludes the board paid medical and the board paid life. And if you work less than 20 hours, you're eligible for the benefits you see up there, the EAP, the wellness programs, use of the wellness center, the supplemental insurance, or supplemental retirement, but you're not eligible for any of the insurance programs. And then the effective date of benefits for all employees is the first of the month after a 45-day waiting period, and you see the reference right there for the articles in the contract. The primary thing we spend a lot of time talking about in this particular session when we review Article 11 is the board paid flex credits. This is the money that goes towards your medical insurance, and the current amount of that is $8,104.08 per employee per year. If that employee elects medical, if an employee waives medical, they get $25 per check, which works out to $600 per year. And if an employee waives medical and makes no other elections whatsoever, then the board paid flex credits are forfeited, and that money stays with wherever that employee's funding comes from. For most folks, it's the general fund. Also under board paid benefits is a $20,000 group term life insurance policy, which includes AD&D, which stands for accidental death and dismemberment. Also, as part of employment, employees have access to the Florida retirement system, and you can see there that for those who elect the board paid pension, or who elect the pension, the board does contribute 11.91% of payroll, and for those who elect the investment plan, the district contributes 6.3% of payroll. We also offer the EAP to all employees regardless of insurance eligibility. And as most of you probably are familiar with, the what's called FICA, or the matching taxes that are taken out of payroll, those are also a part of what goes into that bucket. Whenever you hear the cost of a position is salary and benefits, it's all this stuff right here too. Not just health insurance, which is what most people think of when the word benefits goes out. So there's a big umbrella in the contract called voluntary benefits. That's Article 1107, and that includes all the things you see up here. These items are regularly reviewed in the insurance task force, and these items do go out to bid through the district's procurement process, but they are paid for by the individual employees who elect these through their payroll deduction. And I see some of you taking pictures. More than happy to email you this presentation, so happy to do that. So you're welcome to take all the pictures you want. You're not bothering me, but just thought I'd save you the headache. And then a couple other items that are in the contract I just want to run through real quick so you guys know what's there. There's a liability insurance provision, which is 1108. There's a provision around the district's self-insured health fund, which is 1109. The self-insured reserve fund reserve is a requirement of state law for a self-insured medical plan, which the district does have. There's some discussion around FRS, which is 1110, which is titled retirement. And then there's an 1101, actually I think that's supposed to be 1111, my apologies. There's discussion around Social Security and the fact that the district does contribute to Social Security on behalf of employees. So that's kind of what's in Article 11, and then Article 13 talks about the ITF. And so as Article 11 contains the funding towards health plans, this is the place we talk about funding, which is at the bargaining table. Once that funding is established, the insurance task force then reviews the available plans based on that funding and makes a recommendation for medical plans to the board. So those two committees work very close. This committee and the ITF committee work very closely together. As a matter of fact, there are members in the room who are on that committee, which I'll call you out here in just a minute, so get your hands ready to be raised. So Article 13 does include the requirement of an insurance task force. It is a bargaining subcommittee. We do meet the first Thursday of every month, with the exception of July. And we usually move the January meeting as well because most people don't want to be here on January 1st. And you can see the language here. The parties will explore alternatives, improvements, changes, etc., and that we use the interest-based process the same as we use in here. There's also a provision in Article 13 about require a supermajority around either the TALC bargaining unit, the SPALC bargaining unit, or the district can put a halt to anything coming out of the ITF. So it's a very collaborative process, and it's something I've been very fortunate to be a part of in my time here with the district. So as I mentioned, there are folks in the room who are part of this committee. So the superintendent appoints 6 members, and these are the 6 members of the superintendent's appointees. So if you're on that list in this room, if you'd please raise your hand. Okay. And then TALC appoints 4 and SPALC appoints 4 for their 6, or 6, I can't add, 4 and 4 is 8. So if you are here on the SPALC or TALC representative for the ITF, if you could please raise your hand. Okay, so for those of you who have any questions, those are the folks who can help answer them for you. And of course, I'm happy to as well. So let's dive into a little bit about the insurance themselves. I picked district paid life insurance because this is short, sweet, and quick, and we'll be out of here in a second. I got one whopping slide on it. So it is Article 1106. The district provides $20,000 of group life insurance to eligible employees. So those are the employees who work 30 or more hours a week. It is a term policy, and I put that in here only because I probably get asked 4 times a month if people can cash out their life insurance. It's a term policy, not a cash policy. The $20,000, I did some research to see how long that's been part of our agreement, and it dates back to at least 92, 93. That was the oldest contract I could find, and it was in there as it is written right now. Employees do have the opportunity to buy up for additional amounts of insurance. So the $20,000 that's paid for by the district, you can buy up in increments of $20,000 up to $200,000. And employees can purchase life insurance on a legally married spouse or on dependent children. So that's also an option under this umbrella of life insurance. But those two items would be employee paid benefits as well. Okay, and now here comes the meat. We're going to talk about the medical plan. I got a couple of things I just want to, just for a second, before we dive into really the meat and potatoes of the medical plan, I want you to kind of think of something we all might be a little more familiar with, because most of us probably don't purchase insurance. You may elect to have insurance through the district and you may pay for that, but you're not actually purchasing the whole policy. Those of you who raised your hand earlier who've done ITF stuff and ITNs with the ITF, just because we don't have enough alphabet soup, are probably a little bit more familiar with some of what I'm going to talk about, but it's a really important concept to understand. And that is, what is the total premium of medical plan? What is the employer contribution towards that total premium? And what is the employee contribution towards that total premium? So, we're going to think about just buying a car, okay? Let's suspend insurance for just a second, and we're going to go buy a car. And Sally and Johnny have both gone to the bank to get a loan to buy a car. Sally's bank has given her a loan of approved her for a loan of $22,000, and Johnny's bank has approved him for a loan of $8,000. They both go to the car dealership and they both want to buy the same car that's $23,000. So if Sally wants to buy that car, she's got to come up with another $1,000, right? The $22,000 the bank's going to loan her, plus $1,000 from somewhere else. If Johnny wants to buy that same car, he's got to come up with $15,000 more above what the bank is giving him. So in that instance, Johnny's approved for $8,000 from the bank. He's got to come up with $15,000 from somewhere else to buy that same car. So in this example, the car loan is the employer contribution. So if you've ever had somebody tell you, oh, so-and-so pays less for their insurance, more than likely what they're talking about is the somewhere else on this analogy. The somewhere else is what the employee pays. They're probably not considering what the employer is contributing towards that or what the total premium for that insurance actually is. So here's kind of a simple math formula. These two formulas are equivalent, and these are the three pieces of medical insurance. So we have the total premium, we have the employer contribution, and then we have the employee cost. And as you can see on the top, the total premium minus the employer contribution, and again, as a reminder, the employer contribution is in the contract, Article 1102, equals the employee cost. And another way to say that for my math teachers in the room, because I know I got a couple, keep me honest over there, is the employee cost plus the employer contribution equals the total premium. Those two equations are the same, right? So if the total premium is $10, and the employer contribution is 8, then the employee cost is 2, right? Because 2 plus 8 is 10. If the total premium is 10 and the employer contribution is 2, then the employee contribution is 8. So see how you can get a very different employee cost with the same total premium based on that employer contribution. Does that make sense? I'm going to pause and look for at least nods in heads. Do I see nods? Okay, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Okay, good. All right, so now that we understand kind of that Insurance 101, let's dive in. So when we work with the ITF to set our medical premiums, our goal is that the total premium equal the total cost. So the cost of our health plan is the claims that all of our employees submit. So when you go to the doctor and you give them your insurance card and the insurance pays the doctor, that's a claim. And then there is an administration fee that's paid on a per employee per month basis for administration of the claims by Aetna, who is our third-party administrator. So that administration fee pays for all the processing of those claims, the payment of that on the behalf, the use of Aetna's network, a lot of our wellness initiatives and all that is paid for out of that administration, which is a very, very small piece. To give you an idea, it's roughly a 95-5% split. So roughly 95% of the district's total cost is in claims, and probably a little bit more. So once we know what the total cost is, then we have to set premiums with an anticipation that the premiums collected will pay the cost, right? So that's how those two things equal. And we said a minute ago that the premiums equal the employer contribution plus the employee cost, right? So if total premiums equal total costs and total premiums equal employer contribution and employee cost, then the total costs of the plan have to be covered by those two contributions from those two entities. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm seeing nods. Okay. So another term you may hear in insurance is the idea of a loss ratio. So when you're looking at a health plan, like I said before, our goal is that the total premium and the total cost are equal. That would be a loss ratio of 100%. That means every dollar we collected in premium was spent on claims, and that would be perfect. But of course, we're projecting numbers, right? So it's a little hard sometimes to project to absolute perfection. So if you have what's a 95% loss ratio, if you hear that term, the plan has a 95% loss ratio, that means that the costs are 95% of the premium. You took in more money than you spent. In reverse, if a plan has a 105% loss ratio, that means you spent more than you took in. Okay, so 100 and under is good in terms of the plan being healthy and viable long-term. 100.1 and higher is where the plan is not starting to become unsustainable. Now, if 1 year we're a little high or a little low, that's what that reserve is that we talked about a minute ago. And that's why you have to have that reserve under state law to account for, you know, a global pandemic that costs a whole bunch of money that none of us could have possibly predicted. So that's why you have a reserve, is for those times when you can't get it perfectly on the match. But that's the goal whenever we're setting premiums going forward. And premiums are determined annually. It's something we look at as part of the insurance task force. It's part of the contemplation around what the plan is going to cost. It's also part of the decision that goes into plan designs, because we try to keep the costs controllable as best we can. So in medical insurance, there's a thing called medical trend. And I know everybody's heard the word inflation, especially if you have lived anywhere with a television or internet or anything in the last couple of years. You've heard the word inflation. And medical trend is essentially the inflation in the cost of medical plans. So medical inflation has its own calculation, which, as you can see by the numbers listed on the left side of the screen, is exceedingly much higher than the national inflation level. So what this slide is telling us is that in 2006, which is our baseline year here, an item that cost $100 in 2006, so whether that's a knee surgery or a medication or whatever, if it was $100 in 2006, with medical inflation over those last many years, it is now over $300 for that exact same thing today. And remember the math formula, costs have to equal premiums. So if the cost is going up, then the premiums will have to go up as well, right? So since 2007, I'm not exactly sure the year that the vote was taken, but I can tell you the first year that it was the number where it was frozen was 2006 and 7. The district, in a bargaining session, much like this one, decided to freeze the board contribution at $62.73 per employee per year. So from 2007 to 2022, the medical trend increased by $337, and that in the parentheses say what I just said a minute ago, which is $100 in 2007 would be over $300 in 2022. From 2007 to 2022, the board contribution, which is Article 11, has increased a total of $1,732 or 27.19%. So again, but that math formula, total premium equals board contribution equals board contribution plus employee contribution. So if the board contribution hasn't moved that much, the employee contribution has, which I know I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. Our employees, especially in the dependent care market, is pretty expensive. So this is the bargaining outcomes. So for people sitting in this room, just like we are now, and maybe even some of us who are in this room, this is what the board contribution was from 2000. You can see where it goes flat right there from 2006 to 2015. And then slowly has crept up in increments over the last couple of years until we've reached where we are in 2022, which is the $8,104.60. So when you take those two slides and you put the medical trend slide with the board contribution slide, this is what they look like together. And as you can see, it was a little bit of a gap for a while there, and then the gap has continued to get quite large as we move towards the right on this slide. Now, I also mentioned a minute ago that our plan has reserves, and the purpose of the reserves is to cushion the plan against any unexpected increases to costs that were unforeseeable. And so this is the history of the reserves. The top line is the reserve line, and you can see it got quite high for those of you who were here in 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15. This is when we really made a huge commitment to wellness recommended by the ITF, approved by the board and the superintendent. You may remember we began offering incentives for employees to participate in classes, and we had a number of years where we saw substantial increases to our medical reserve because our claims were actually going down. Remember a minute ago when I showed you that trend number where it goes up, up, up? The actuary would literally call me and go, I never see this. Nobody has claim numbers that are going down. And that's a result of all the work that employees did to participate in those programs and improve their health. And then as you can see over time, that reserve number did come down. You might see that pretty steep curve in 16, 17, and 18. For those of you who were part of the bargaining team, we did increase the board contribution, and we took that money specifically out of reserves. That's where that down went. That was agreed to again at this table. And then you can see the reserves have ticked up a little bit over time to where we were as of 2021. Our reserve numbers for this year are not yet final, so I don't have those. Kevin, hang on just a second. Before I take Kevin's question, I just want to let everybody know that bottom line, that kind of yellowy line, although it doesn't even look yellow up on the screen, sorry, but the bottom line on those two lines is what's called our reserve requirement. So the state requires that our plan keep 60 days of expected claims on hand. That's the bottom of what we can have in our reserve fund is 60 days of expected claims. And so that's what that bottom yellow line represents, is 60 days worth of expected claims, which as of the end of our last fiscal year was $13.8 million. Kevin, you had a question?
You answered it preemptively.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Kerr?
I may have been engaging in a limited sidebar when you said this, so I apologize. Is that the expected reserve is right at 40 million? Is that what I'm saying?
That was the reserve as of the end of last fiscal, not 2022, but 2021.
So June 30th,
2021, yes.
Do we have the current reserve amount?
No, it is not finalized. I was hoping it would be by today, but I'm still working with the actuary to finalize that. For those of you who are really interested in this stuff and can't wait to get more, Florida Statute 11208 talks all about the reserve that we have to have on file. And we have to file our 11208 by the end of the month. So we're working to file that, which includes these two numbers. So once that is available, I'm happy to share it with the group. So as we talked about with total premium, there's a couple ways you can manage the increases that are coming to that total premium number. The first is through plan management. So we've done a number of things with the plans over the course of the time period that we're talking about, including increasing deductibles and copays. We began offering things to employees to encourage preventative care, such as covering diagnostic and preventative colonoscopies at 100%. We also added Cologuard as an option under our plan. Just this past year, we introduced what's called Prudent Rx, which is a formulary design for those people who are on those really, really high-cost medications, to offer those through a limited channel, so employees still get their medication, but they get it in a way that saves the district money and actually saves the employee money as well. We introduced new plan designs like our high deductible health plan with an HSA, so employees could save money in their HSA for unexpected expenses. And we've also introduced companion plans like the accident, the critical illness, and the cancer plans, so that if people felt a need to have more coverage in those areas, they could purchase those companion plans to do that. We've also done a fair amount of premium containment through our wellness program. I talked about that a minute ago, where we were literally seeing negative trend on our own plan specific, which was amazing. And some of you are very familiar with those. It's our annual wellness incentives. It's our nutrition classes, our gamification of wellness like the Outbreak. There's a wellness center in this building that was funded through the reserves in the health fund because they had gone up so much. We've done online mental health improvement projects like the LIFT project. We've offered money management, money stress reduction with things like Smart Dollar. And for just a quick second, if you're in this room and you are an employee of the School District of Lee County and you have participated in a wellness program in the last year, raise your hand. Yay! And if you haven't, Heather will be by to see you. So what does that mean for our health plan? This is the ROI from 2016 to 2022. That's our annual ROI on our health plan. A couple of important things about this number is these are one-year savings. They're not cumulative over time. So when you see, $2 to $3 million by each year, that is the calculated reduction in medical cost as a result, or medical cost avoidance as a result of people improving their health. And these savings also do not include productivity gains or absence avoidance. So if you're familiar at all with medical plan or with wellness plans, sometimes they'll say, oh, but people are at work more and that's worth this amount of money. And that's a true statement. It's really hard to calculate, but those savings are not included in this. So these are literally medical plan savings, not just the overall savings that can be a result of folks getting healthier and being healthier. So, any questions about that before we start talking about how the district compares to some of our peers? Everybody good? Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, the total premium has to be part of the equation when you're evaluating insurance plans. So if you're like me, you've probably had somebody say, so-and-so has cheaper insurance. So on here, what I did was I took the district's enrollment, I calculated what it would cost by these different entities to enroll those people in those plans. And you could see that if we enrolled all the school district employees in the Lee County Sheriff Plan, instead of being $7 million a month, it'd be $9 million a month. If we enroll everybody in the county's plan, instead of being $7 million a month, it would be $11 million a month. See what I did there? Obviously we can't enroll in these people's plan. We don't work for them, but just for a math exercise. And then under that, I enrolled the employee based on their employer contribution. So you can see on here that the sheriff pays full family premiums, so their employees don't pay anything. That's why there's the little dash where it says employee contribution under the sheriff's plan. And if we took the contribution for the Board of County Commissions or Lee County government, you can see that while the plan is $11 million, the employer's 11.6, the employer's paying 11.3, the employees are paying about $300,000. Now those numbers aren't their numbers, that's if you enrolled our people in their plans based on their plan designs. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you're like, wait, my friend works for the county and that's not the right number. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not their number. It's if you took our folks and enrolled our folks in their plans. So you can see by this chart that the school district does have the lowest premium, total premium of any of those organizations, but we also have the lowest employer contribution. And those two things together result in a high employee cost. So this is a chart of how we compare to other districts. I know it's really hard to see up there, but the left bar of each entity is the employee-only contribution, and the right bar is the employee plus family, whatever that is, dependent, spouse, child, whatever, if they enroll somebody besides just themselves. And you can see here that Lee Schools is one of the lowest on the list. We also looked at how do we compare to other governmental entities in Lee County. And as you can see by this, we are the only one that doesn't have a higher amount for family than they do for the individual. Currently, regardless of whether you enroll individual or family, your employer contribution is $8104.80. So in looking at plans for the 2023-2024 plan year, the ITF goes through a number of exercises. So the first thing we look at is what happens if we don't change anything. We don't increase employer contribution, we don't increase the premiums of the plan, and we don't increase employee contributions. And we don't change the plans. Everything's the same. And as you can see up here, about 2/3 of the way down the page, that would result in approximately an $11.6 million deficit to the plan. So I want to bring you back to what I was talking about at the very beginning, which is that premiums have to equal costs, right? So where we are right now, if we don't change anything about the employer contribution or the employee contribution, the plan will be $11.6 million in the deficit for this upcoming plan year that starts in about 7 months. And then we go through a number of proposals. Well, what would it look like if we cleared that deficit all in premium? What would it look like if we cleared that deficit all in plan design changes? What would it look like if we split it and we cleared half of it in plan design changes and half of it in premium increases? And those are because this says proposal or option A, proposal A, this is just the first one we start with. You can imagine to clear an $11.5 million deficit by raising premiums isn't pretty. You can imagine clearing an $11.5 million deficit by changing the plan design isn't pretty. So I'm not even going to bore you with that. If you want to talk about it later, happy to. I love this stuff more than most of you, so I'm hopefully sparing some of you some of this. So then the question was asked at the ITF, what would the board contribution have to be to clear that $11 million? So what that would mean is basically the monthly total premium would go up, but the employer contribution would also go up by the same amount, so that the employee contributions and the plan designs stayed as they are right now. So in order for that to happen, the board contribution would have to increase from $8104.80, which it is right now, to $9213.60. And that the monthly obviously increasing from $675.40 to $767.80. That would leave the employee contribution unchanged and would clear that $11 million deficit, so we're back to even, okay? But one of the things we know is that our dependent care costs, and when I say dependent care, that means if you enroll anybody besides yourself, okay? So when I say dependents, don't equate that with the children for right now, equate that with it's either me or it's me plus dependents, and that dependent could be a spouse, that dependent could be children, or that dependent could be your spouse and your child. Those are all dependents in the medical insurance world. So then the question was asked, well, what would it look like if we put some money towards dependent care coverage? And before I move from proposal E, I want to just note that this exceeds the current contribution, which I think you guys all understood, right? Like we would need more money and this is the table where more money is talked about, but there would have to be more money in the plan in 1102 for this to happen, okay? And same with the next one, but we'll go there. So we said, what would the plan look like if additional money was put towards that dependent care coverage? Reminding you that dependent is everybody. And we said, what if that amount was, and we played around with a couple of amounts, and what the amount here is illustrating is what it would look like if there was a $4,000 dependent subsidy. This particular option or proposal contemplates the increase to the employer contribution that we talked about in the last slide from 8104 to 9213, and also contemplates a amount towards dependent care. So if an employee were to enroll a dependent, again, spouse, child, or both, in the plan, and there was to be a subsidy from the board towards that. And at $4,000 a year, that subsidy is $333 a month. That's simple math. 4,000, it's actually 4,002, because that way it divides equally by 20 and 24, because that's one of our, we have both of those pay groups. But and I don't know if you can actually see this. I thought it would be easier to be seen, but in option E, employed child rates range from $270 to $340 a month. In option G, employed child rates range from $41 to $83 a month. So that's a significant reduction in that cost for employees. To give you another point of example, and again, I'm happy to share this PowerPoint so you don't have to scribble all this down as fast as you possibly can, but I was hoping it would be a little easier to be seen from back there. Your employee family rates, which would, under E, would range from 1104 to 1312, would go to 770 to 979. So that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully that has made sense. And Kevin, I see you with your hand up.
The increase in family coverage is simply because adults are more expensive to insure than children, correct?
On average, yes. And keep in mind that we have...
Right, there are outliers, but in general, adults are more expensive than children to insure.
Yes, yes. On average, adults are more expensive than children to insure. So I'm happy to open the floor up for any discussion or comments. I hope the information I presented was clear. If it's not, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, or I'm happy to pass the mic for any other comments that anybody wishes to make. Kerr?
I have a money question. So proposal G, no, I'm sorry, I'm lost. Proposal E raises the board contribution to $92,1360. That costs around $11.6 million, right?
Correct.
That plugs the hole. What do you estimate the cost of the $4,000 dependent care subsidy to be?
About 5.7 million for that piece. So you have to add the two together.
Just a comment while I have the mic. Bonnie mentioned the rate changes, or I'm sorry, the plan design changes that were nasty. They were egregious in order to keep things somewhat similar. I think we've exhausted plan design changes in the ITF that result in real meaningful changes to the premium now. Also, I was doing some math on the fly, which you all know is very dangerous. The proposal that covers the entire deficit with employee rates or employee compensation only, I think you didn't mention the dollar amount, but I believe the increase was about 350%, which was also just completely egregious. I don't have a better word for it. So I like where we're going with F and G.
Thank you. Jill had her hand.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Jill. We just want to make sure we captured everything. The proposal E raises the cost to cover the increase back to 60 or 9316.
921360. That was proposal E as an elephant.
Yeah.
I should have chosen a different one.
Thank you. Jill.
Bonnie, thank you for your presentation. I know that was a lot of work and it was very helpful. I have a question about the $4,000 for dependent care. So I believe you said that it would be about 5.7 million added to the 11.6. So is that 5.7 million based on looking at the plans and seeing people who already have dependents? Because there are people who don't have their dependents on the plan and they may now want to add them. So I was just wondering where that projection came from.
So the numbers that are in the presentation are based on the people who are currently covering their children on the plan. We did, however, look at other plans that have dependents enrolled in them. Primarily, we looked at the dental plan because we have on the medical plan, about 82% of employees only cover themselves. But on the dental plan, it's only about 63 or 4% that only cover themselves. And so we know there are more families and kids and spouses out there than are currently enrolled in the medical. And that may have an impact on that number. However, Healthy Kids through the state is a very popular program. And the premiums for that are $15 a month or $20 a month. So for many of our folks who may be covering folks on dental and vision, they may have those children already covered under Healthy Kids. And obviously our plan, even with the rate drop at a $4,000 contribution, that rate would still be multiples of Healthy Kids. Now, Healthy Kids does have a very ugly cliff. And so if you qualify for Healthy Kids, then you have either a $15 or $20 premium. At the point at which you no longer qualify for the subsidy, the premium goes to like $275 or something like that per kid. And by the way, there's no in between. It's either $20 a month or $275 a month. So qualifying for that plan or not qualifying for that plan would have a significant financial impact on a family, especially if they were to move from being qualified on that plan to no longer being qualified on that plan. But I say all that to say that yes, we looked at all of that, but we feel confident that the numbers are going to be pretty close to where they are. Numbers move every day, right? We hire people, they enroll, people leave, people have babies, like the number is never exactly the same, even day to day. But we feel pretty confident that those numbers are pretty close and certainly within something that the plan with the reserve would be able to manage.
Yeah, we need a caucus.
Okay.
Anna, I think Anna had a question.
Anna has a question first.
I just was curious, when talking about the high deductible plan and the HSA, so currently an employee who has elected into the high deductible plan, the remaining board flex credits are put onto an HSA card. So what would the impact be for employees that then would potentially, in like plans F or whatever it was, with that dependent care coverage, how would that impact funds going on to the HSA? Would there still be an employer contribution?
So the short answer is yes, there would still be an employer contribution, and the rest of the story is it would be exactly what it is today, because what's being contemplated, the way that it's written is that any money left over from the employee-only rate, and so since we're moving that scenario contemplates the total premium going up and the board contribution going up by the same amount, which results in the same leftover, if that makes sense. So it would still be the same amount towards the HSA fund for employees who elected that plan under any of those three options.
They asked for a caucus, can we hold your questions?
Well,
Kind of an important question.
I think this question is the same as theirs, and this is an important question.
What's your pleasure? With the caveat that maybe we can't answer it, so go ahead. Until we call.
So, I don't know what you're gonna ask.
So, my question is related to the 17.3 million. Bonnie, you mentioned in the presentation that the collective bargaining agreement provides for money to be transferred out of the health insurance reserve upon a recommendation of the insurance task force. So am I correct in assuming, since the ITF hasn't made that recommendation, that this is general fund dollars that we're talking about here?
So once a source of funding is identified, then that source of funding is going to be, for health insurance purposes, are going to be various funding sources because it depends really on where a person would be funded from. And those funding sources could include health insurance reserve, because health insurance reserve does not need to be transferred out of the fund to pay for health insurance. That is what, in part, it is there for. So it wouldn't be a transfer out, which is what the clause in the contract is referring to, transferring the reserve out in order to pay for something else. That would not be what this is.
Maybe I can clarify that. I know that there are a couple of positions that are paid for out of the health insurance fund. I mean, that's, the wellness positions, a couple partial positions in insurance and benefits. So are you saying that the money in the $40 million health insurance reserve fund, that's where the board is planning on taking money to provide for this increase in the board contribution?
No, I don't think that's what I'm saying. I'm certainly not saying once a funding source is identified that it would be the whole amount from a health insurance reserve. But what I'm saying is that a healthy insurance reserve, it is a viable option that it could potentially be at least partially utilized in order to help fund the expenses of the health insurance, which would be part of this. So I'm saying that's always a factor.
I'm just going to go on the record and say that I'm incredibly uncomfortable with that. We've never transferred money out of the health insurance fund except for through some sort of recommendation with the ITF to cover these deficits or things of that nature. It's I'm incredibly uncomfortable with that type of process.
So if I can respond to it, what I'm saying is that this is not a transfer out. That's not the definition of what a transfer out is. And so that would be no different from what happens in any given year. So that would not be a transfer out. I don't think we're saying different things. I think maybe I'm not being so clear what I'm saying. So maybe I can try one more time. In terms of balancing any budget, all funding sources are taken into account. Once the funding source is identified once a funding source is identified for anything, including, for example, some of these proposals that you saw in front of you, the proposal is $11 million, $5.7 million, a total of $17 million. That is a recurring expense. It's unrealistic to believe that the health insurance reserve could fund that ongoing expense in perpetuity. That's not the case. A funding source would have to be identified. However, if there is a need to potentially utilize some or a piece of the health insurance reserve in order to balance out or to deal with any, say, uncertain or unknown circumstances, then that is always an option to do so, and that would not be a transfer out if it was for health insurance expenses.
Then who makes that decision, or what, is that budget that makes that decision?
I think that's the district collectively that makes that decision, but certainly we're analyzing information. Insurance and Benefits is analyzing information, so yes.
Okay.
That's messed up. And Ms. Caucus? Are you guys gonna also caucus?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You guys
Thank you, we're back. We have about 13 minutes left. So go ahead and get some caucus reports here. Rob, you want to start?
And I apologize, I know we're the ones that had the really extended caucus, and so our apologies. We had to talk about how, once questions started being asked, we wanted to figure out how we wanted the evening to end, because we know we have to get somewhere with a joint session. So I'll just cut to the chase. We talked about various ways to do that, and we know there may be a lot more questions. So what we would like to do is leave here with a recommendation on one of the plans, and then at the individual bargaining sessions with both SPALC and TALC individually, answer any more questions or specifics or funding questions, things like that, at that time. So, but we would like to come out of here with a recommendation on one of the plans Bonnie put up there, and I can certainly put the option up there that the full group recommends whatever plan that we choose. But I would like them to, they caucused also, so let's hear that first.
Okay, go ahead, Kurt.
We weren't able to caucus as long, because as Rob said, we left with some unanswered questions and we have more. I'm rather uncomfortable with providing a recommendation without knowing funding sources. And some of the other answers to, now we have questions about individual, well, how should I say, the rest of the compensation piece. Because if we agree to this tonight, we'd also like to know what's on the table for, say, TALC and SPALC bargaining, respectfully, in terms of, because this is a compensation piece. I'm also uncomfortable with doing this piecemeal. This is a joint session for a reason. This impacts both of the CBAs. So whatever questions one side has, I'm sure the other would as well.
And Kurt, I don't mean to interrupt you. We could do another joint session. I just wanted to say that.
Then, in order for that to be productive, we really need to know where the funding source is coming from. I mean, I can't budget my household expenses without knowing funding sources, and we need to know the same for the health insurance piece. And when we talk about reserves, this reserve is not replenished year after year. We do a lot of hard work in the ITF to keep things as affordable as possible. And when the reserves increase, it's typically because expenses did not outweigh income. So in my mind, this is employee dollars, that are in that fund. And frankly, I'm a little uncomfortable with using employee dollars to fill this gap. That's just where I am right now.
So I know we have SPALC scheduled for Monday of next week, and then TALC the following Monday. I'd hate to take another date from SPALC to do a joint session. So, any thoughts of doing it on an off night?
We can take the TALC date if you'd like.
Okay.
Oh, that was a TALC date.
Today's a TALC date.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, today's the TALC date.
Yes, you're right. So then,
can we do it on an off night?
So I'm sidebarring with my SPALC colleagues here.
Okay.
We're okay with taking the SPALC night on the 19th?
I'm not here that evening, so Will's going to run bargaining. I'd rather not have a joint session without me here. And I'm sorry.
Do you have another date proposed, then, Rob?
Well, How's Wednesday the 21st?
That's our top rep meeting.
Okay. How about Thursday?
Come on.
I second that. All in favor?
22nd.
I was jokingly saying we could do the rep meeting here and have this as a portion of it, but I'm getting a lot of no's.
Thursday the 22nd?
Is the 22nd enough time to give notice? That's 10 days? For public meeting notice?
Today's what?
The 12th.
Yeah, no, we're fine. I think.
At least us two for sure.
Would that be all right? We have some folks that teach on Thursdays, but
Yeah, it doesn't work for Dr. Desamore either, so.
There's also a big training.
That looks like the 26th.
No, I'll be for the 28th. Correct. What about the 26th?
We are already burning on the 26th.
No, Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, what time is your rep meeting?
5 o'clock.
Okay.
We're in school.
What about Wednesday, the 28th?
That's an idea.
And does that give enough time? Bonnie's probably.
Right, that's what I'm looking at.
And is the room open? Yeah. Yeah.
We could do the 28th.
But is the room open?
26th, we have TALC. Are you guys okay if we just take the 26th? No, you still want to have TALC, right?
Is that Rosh Hashanah? Oh, yes.
It is Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah, so we need to do the 28th then.
Okay. So joint session 28th.
Yes.
To be continued. Okay.
And I know we don't have to have a action for this, but can I just make sure we can done on this? All here, 28th for joint session. You're good, you're good.
I'm going sideways.
28th, thumbs up or thumbs aside, to make sure that we're all.
28th?
But I have a question.
Anna has a question, please. Anna has a question. Go ahead, Anna.
My only question is, that's like the late day that we have to work, so do we have to get leave requests to leave early at 3 o'clock instead of 3:45? I mean, there's no students there.
Oh, okay. No, I can email the principals.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Mind asking?
All right, so I'll do it for 28th
Yes.
of September for a joint session to continue on with. All right. All right.
Question.
Is it possible to get the idea or definitive answer on the funding source by then?
Yes.
As well as talk and stuff.
For both TALC and SPALC? Oh, compensations as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nothing else, so we do have, it is 6:56 to stay with our norms of at least ending on time. Bonnie, would you like to add something?
Just a housekeeping thing. I wanted to let Kerr and Arlise and Kevin know that I've emailed you the presentation. I don't know if you saw your email, but you do have that. If you would kindly distribute it to the team, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Is IPS still on for the 15th? I wanted to ask, I think it was, okay.
Okay. Are you done?
Anything else? We're at 6:57 now. Please have a great night. Thank you for your time.